Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sessoms.
Hi, sir.
How are you?
I'm good so far.
Good. I was just looking at Miss Simmons' background. I think she is somewhere. I think she might have actually left us and gone on a trip.
Yeah, she's doing everything virtual too. She's not coming back.
No, I'm not coming back.
As long as the checks are deposited automatically, she's good, right?
That's right.
You better believe that. 1st and the 16th of every month, sir.
Right now. One of the good things about being older, you get Social Security now. That's a good thing.
I'm not going to touch that age reference, sir.
Unexpected. My wife gets it too. We go to dinner every once in a while now.
Just so that you all know, we are live.
Oh, okay. And thank you, sir, for letting us know.
We're just chatting.
There he is.
Call from unavailable.
Some things never change.
Yeah.
A full beard, huh, Mr. Sessoms?
You are not giving him the same kind of grief y'all give me when I grow out my beard. Where's
Don't do that, Hubie. Don't do that.
where's the peanut gallery? Kevin, Tom.
Are you going back? Are you growing it back out, Hubie, for November?
I can do it this weekend.
Right. Only takes you a couple days. Well, I'm trying to figure out whether I'm gonna keep this little one, so we'll see.
Hey everyone, it's Jay.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, Jay, how are you, sir?
Doing great.
Okay, I'm hitting the record button now.
Okay.
We are live and we are recording.
Is Dr. Red hanging out with us? Oh, she's here. Okay.
Yeah, she's here.
Mr. Sessoms, I think it's on you, sir.
You got 1 more minute, so I give 1 more minute. That's it. Joseph's here. Javon's here. Yes.
Yes, yeah.
All right, let's get started, please. Thank you very much for this meeting of personal compensation and governance. And we'll ask Dr. Red to do the roll call, please.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
No.
Mr. Glenn Sessoms,
Present.
Ms. Thurza Crittenden,
Present.
Mr. Michael Fleming, Ms. Siobhan Gordon, Ms. Gordon. She's coming in now. Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Gordon. Okay. Mr. Herrera. Herrera. Mr. Stegmeyer.
Here?
Mr. Sessoms, you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Ms. Red. I appreciate you. I guess I'll give the implications since we have no other features on the phone. Let us pray to God. We thank you for the blessings, large and small. We thank you for keeping us safe wherever we go in this environment. We ask you to bless Virginia State University and the work we have to do on its behalf today. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay.
Amen.
Approval of the agenda. Is everyone need to add anything to the agenda at all? If not, we'll move for approval of the agenda in a second, please.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
So moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, let's move on. We Dr. McCullough Dooley, any comments from you today, sir?
Just briefly, I'll echo some of the comments I made earlier in the education, the academic and student affairs meeting. That I think it really, we should acknowledge, of course, the wonderful work that the faculty and staff and the students have done during this pandemic. As it relates to personnel, that's probably been the biggest challenge. Not only are people dealing with, kind of the anxiety from work and the changes that have happened on campus, whether people are working remotely, but also, of course, dealing with challenges in their own lives. And so I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge them for the work that they do, and also acknowledge the work that Ms. Simmons has been doing to really put the system together to try to support our faculty and staff through these challenging times. And so with that, that was my only comment, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Ms. Tanya has been putting the organization in place. She has an update for us on all the things that have gone on in the area of personnel. And, we'll get her presentation today and talk about a few open items at the end and close this meeting. So, Ms. Tanya, the floor is yours. I appreciate you coming today.
All right. Thank you so much. Again, good afternoon, everyone. If I could ask, because I have my earbuds in, if we can put everybody on mute so I can hear, that's perfect. Whenever someone wants to advance the slide for me or to put the presentation up for me, and if I'm supposed to do it, just let me know. I appreciate you. Thank you. Again, I'm Tanya Simmons. I'm the HR director here at Virginia State University, and it's my pleasure to have a conversation with you about updates in our department and how we support the other departments. The agenda that you see before you, once the slide advances, I wanted to kind of talk briefly about process improvements that we've made in our area to supporting other areas in the university. I want to take a ride down memory lane for some of the university training that we have done and what we are doing. And for the benefit of some of the new visitors that may be on the phone, I kind of wanted to talk through the university workforce plan, talk to you about cardinal implementation. I'll give you a brief summary about that and then give you a peek into the OHR, or my HR department's organizational structure. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so COVID is the premise of everything at this point. COVID has made us see, especially in my department, how we need to pivot and shift and change and adapt. And so we've done that by several ways, which you see before you. Virtual onboarding of our faculty and staff. So at this point, no face-to-face meetings with I guess what I can say, onboarding of staff, getting them acclimated to the university. We're using the technology that we have in front of us. One we're using right now, that's Cisco WebEx, and we also use Zoom to conduct our new employee orientation. What I also can share with you is that some of our paper processes at the university have been migrated to a PDF fillable format with a digital signature. And some of those things are our A21, and that form is the genesis of an HR transaction. That's how we hire you. That's how we change your salary and et cetera. And so with that said, what the previous process of that form was simply paper form and will move from person to person or authorized signature to sign off on the document. What we were able to do quickly was change with the times, and we moved that to a PDF platform, so now it can be emailed across the university for who needs to sign in and authorize that transaction. I also wanted to share with you about the electronic faculty contract administration process. we've worked very closely with the Provost's office, Dr. Pomberia, to kind of brainstorm on how we can get our faculty, teaching faculty, and our faculty administrators their contracts, knowing the fact that we were sent home by the governor in March. And what we came up with was to simply create a template and put it on, again, the PDF format and require digital signatures. In the previous state, again, we are looking for the wet signature, if you will. And those days are slipping away from us. And so what we wanted to do is just leverage COVID and that fact and shed some light on some efficiencies that we could create. That would also include the performance evaluation form. Some of those processes we've just kind of moved them in an effort to have your annual meeting with your employees and to talk about their performance in a fashion that we're using the electronic means that we have. I want to also talk to you about the I-9 paper process. So I remember, Mr. Sessoms, you met with me. I will be here November 25th, 3 years. And when you met with me a few months into my job, you looked around and you saw a lot of paper and you saw a lot of files. And one of the things that we had talked about was trying to reduce that paper. And so what we've done from an I-9 process, and let me share that with you, I-9 is a federal process that we need to ensure that you can work in the United States. And so once the paper is still there, there's nothing we could do about that piece of it. But what we could do was take it out of the binders that we were filing them on a shelf. And we have worked with IT to migrate those forms in electronic filing system. So we no longer have that, we have an empty space where those files were. And so we're using the technology, again, leveraging what we have and working with IT. What I am most proud of right now is that, again, IT, the shining star, they are working with us to move or migrate the university clearance process completely from paper. So just to give you an example what this clearance process is, once you're ready to separate from the university, retire, leave the university, we have to ensure that you clear the university. And that simply means we need to ensure that you are returning your assets, VSU assets, back to your managers or IT, your Trojan ID card, making sure that you don't have any parking tickets. You also have the ability to utilize the university library, so you're returning the library books. And so the clearance process is that there are designated folks that will say, this Tanya Simmons is cleared, she's turned in her card, she's paid her parking tickets, and that will lead her to payroll to have them pay out any of her unused leave that she's eligible for. This will now be lifted from a paper process of walking the form around to getting a signature to putting it on a SharePoint platform to simply clicking a link, and that link will start the process of clearing this employee from the university, and it will automatically flow to the manager, and it will keep flowing until the process is done all the way to payroll. And so if I can shout for joy and jump for joy, this is the one thing right now that I'm super excited about. This is a complete paperless process. We are also working with other departments because they're seeing that we're trying to move. We're trying to utilize some of the technology that we already have. So we've helped some of the departments kind of go through what they have, their processes, and we're helping them create some forms to get their work moving too. Any questions on process improvements before I move over to university training? All right, hearing none, I'll ask to advance the slide, please. We could talk about university training. So there's, of course, more training than this at the university and at the state level, but what we are doing is ensuring that we implement some of the trainings. These are annual mandatory trainings, a couple from the state of Virginia, but also in-house. And so, of course, civility in the workplace, that's actually a policy that came down from the Department of Human Resource Management, January of 2019, and it is mandatory that everyone at the university takes this training where it talks about basically what you see, civility in the workplace, how we treat one another, how we treat staff, how we treat students, how we treat vendors. And so this is an annual training that we implement. We also implement sexual harassment training to keep everybody in the know and what things are triggers. So we have that training. We also have the COVID-19 training, and I believe we launched this in August, and some of our board members had an opportunity to take the training, but this is a training that we want to keep in the forefront for everyone. This is for faculty, staff, students, and vendors, or contractors, I should say, that are on the campus, just to keep in their mind that, hey, this is what it means to have a 6-foot distance, meaning social distancing. And this is how long you should wash your hands. And this is how you should properly wear a mask. So those things that we're still working and partnering with our departments. The other piece that I'm super excited about, Mr. Sussman, you may also remember, and Mrs. Stegmeyer too, because we had talked about new supervisors training. We launched this pre-COVID, of course, November of 2019. This course is mandatory for brand new employee managers that come into the university, and we were rolling it out to current staff at the university managers. And simply put, this was a 3-day course designed to help managers understand how to lead, how to communicate, again, talking about civility in the workplace, talking about how to effectively communicate with staff, and I think I said already how to lead. So we had great feedback with this. Yes, it's 3 days, but it encompasses days of case studies. You break up into groups, you talk through some of those case studies, and get some dialogue with your colleagues at the university. What we're doing now is we have to pivot. So we're in the process of, one, trying to break that down from 3 days in our virtual world. I don't think this will go over if someone is sitting at the computer for 3 days straight. That's a little different than in person. So we're in the process now of trying to revamp that training and continue to offer because it was so well received. Can you advance the next slide, please? And so once that happens, once it's out, do I hear a question?
Ms. Simmons, are all of these trainings mandatory?
Yes, sir, they are. Yes, sir, they are. Thank you for that. University workforce plan, and let me just do some foundational conversation here for the benefit of the new board. Do I hear another question before I move? Okay. So the university workforce plan, for the benefit of the new visitors, the governor about 3 years ago had an initiative of every state agency and institution to look at their workforce. What does it look like now? What would it look like in the future regarding succession planning, critical positions, and when folks start to retire, how are you going to handle that piece of it? So what we were charged to do, every agency and every institution, is come up with a plan, create a plan of what that may look like for your university. The plan that we submitted in 2019, I guess what we can say is it rose an eyebrow or two because they called me to congratulate me to say, Tanya, your agency submitted a very thorough workforce plan, and we want to add that into the best practices guide at Department of Human Resource Management. While that's a kudo, that puts me on notice, right? So that means that moving forward with my team and partnering with other departments, that we need to ensure that we continue that process. So having said that, we can skip to the next slide, please, because I'll drill down into some of those pieces that were admitted into that best practices guide. And so what I can share with you is some of those pieces that is at the top of the agenda, especially for the governor, is talent acquisition. Talent acquisition from a statewide perspective, the time to fill rate was pretty, it was too long. So the initiative for the governor, and a slogan really is called Think 50. Time to fill means from the time we post that position to the time we put an effective date in for someone to start working with us. And our average time to fill was 4 to 6 months. My goal is to reduce that time to fill rate to 50 to 60 days. The governor is asking for 50. We have to take baby steps and work towards that. There are some positions that will actually go beyond that because they may be very specific in nature. But what I can tell you is that the plan to get there is to work with our hiring managers. We need to go ahead and get some of these things done up front, maybe having a conversation of budget. What does the budget look like for this position? Do we need to do a market analysis for you so you'll know right out of the gate what that position will market for out there? Go ahead and get the paperwork done ahead of time. Tell me who is on your panel. Tell me your questions. Go ahead and get all of the paperwork done up front. That does cut your time down when we're talking about time to fill rate. The other piece that was on the plan was the climate survey pay equity study. I put in parentheses employee engagement because it's all relative, and that's exactly what that is, a climate survey. In the next slide, I believe I'll talk about where we were and where we are with the climate survey. But I've already touched on the technology efficiencies. Some of those things I touched on previous slides were submitted to the HRM or the Department of Human Resource Management. Next slide so that I can give you a sense of where we, yes.
Excuse me, Tanya. The time to fill rate, the measure of having completed that, is that having an individual under contract, or is it when they actually show up to work?
Yes. So the time to fill rate, so I'm going to post a position 11, 19, 20, and my goal is to have you hired in your seat in 50 to 60 days. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that just seems, I mean, in higher education, for example, that seems really aggressive. I mean, that might be fine for certain staff positions, but you know, where at professional level jobs where somebody might have to give 60 days of notice,
right,
before moving. Okay. So how do you handle that wrinkle?
And that's a case by case basis. But what I can tell you, Mr. Stegmeyer, is you can't keep going 4 to 6 months on average. Right.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to be set up for failure.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And it is aggressive. And from the governor's perspective, he's looking globally across all state agencies and institutions. And I do recognize that there are some specific positions, teaching faculty, for example, where we're honing in on a faculty that teaches mathematics, economics, and it's kind of hard to garner that person in. And it may take a little time, but I'll handle those on the one-offs. But on an average, my goal is to bring us down to where we were, 4 to 6 months, and bring it down a little. Baby step stuff.
I like big goals.
Don't hold me to it. I'm gonna work the plan and plan the work. How about that? So the climate survey, though, we talked about this the fall of 2019, and we got a dynamic group of faculty and staff together in September of 2019, a study group to figure out how we wanted to lay this out. What should it look like? What should it include? And so we worked with the procurement office to launch the RFP, or the request for proposal. And within that time frame in December of 19, we also had the pre-proposal meeting. And that meeting is simply for the consultants who are interested in submitting an RFP to us, giving them an opportunity to ask questions and ensure that what they see or what we're asking for is what they can deliver. So then here comes January, and the RFP closed, and we received 5 responses. And then here comes COVID. So COVID came. Yes, sir. Mrs. Sessoms,
You said 5.
Yes, sir. 5 responses. Yes, sir. Is that what you were asking me? Okay, gotcha. And so March is here, and the governor shut the Commonwealth down. And so where we are, in conversation with the president, Kevin Davenport and Dr. Palm. While this is not something that we're just tossing to the side, we're just reprioritizing what's needed and some of the things, the reopening plan and any other priorities that those folks, the president, everybody has. So not putting it off, just putting it on the back burner, but it is still something that we want to look at in the future. Any questions before I move to the next slide? If you could advance for me, please, I appreciate it. Yes, sir. Mr. Winstead, did you have something? I can't hear you. Oh.
So
Okay.
the climate survey has been put on hold. And, reprioritized. What has there been any discussion about what would be the triggers to re-engage or when to re-engage?
I can where you're going. Engaging with the president, we're looking at when we get back to some normalcy on campus. It's kind of hard to do a survey when we don't have people on campus and things aren't natural. So we'll put to such time for both the climate survey and pay equity study.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Sessoms, and thank you for the question, Mr. Winstead. So to wrap up the workforce plan, though, in light of COVID, the agencies, the institutions and agencies were given a choice to either put the plan off, the 2020 plan off, or skip a year. And I chose to go ahead and provide the plan to have consistency and continuity and to see how the numbers change from year to year, because this will be the third year. And I will say that every year it's a little different. We follow the template that the Department of Human Resource Management provides us and the data that's in the system. So I'm interested to see what it looks like from 19 to 20. And now we're coming up on 21. So we'll start looking at those, that information in partnership with DHRM as well. So if we can move to the next slide, I believe it is the Cardinal implementation. Just wanted to give some background for the benefit of the new visitors in the room. Okay, so Cardinal Human Capital Management, that is basically, it's going to be the statewide system to run our payroll, to house our employee data, and to submit time and attendance. The legacy systems, if you will, that are currently in place are outdated, and it is my understanding that they are no longer being supported. And so to that effect, those legacy systems are, I guess you can call it a green screen, mainframe 3270. So I, for one, will be excited to use something more in line with technology. You will be able to run better reports that we couldn't get before. And this is on a PeopleSoft platform. There is a team in place. I'm a part of it, the Cardinal implementation team. The team spans HR, payroll, IT. We have an awesome project manager in IT, and she keeps us on track. Accounts, the accounting department, trying to remember if budget is a part of it. In case I didn't mention you, charge it to my head. But this new system is statewide. This is not just for Virginia State University. This is statewide, and I am more than happy to, I'm just very excited and look forward to it starting. The last slide, I believe, is giving you a peek inside of our HR structure. Thank you. And I have a body count of 14. I have 14 FTEs. Yes, 4 are vacant. That is telling you that we're working. We are working to partner. We're working to support. We're here for our departments. We're here for the president. We're here for just to continue to keep the university moving. And I can share with you that I am looking at having a conversation with Kevin and the president to talk through what can we do to look at the vacancies in my area. I will lean to you for any questions or concerns, conversations. This concludes my report.
I was just curious, when you say they're vacant, are they posted roles, or they're not roles that you're actively looking to fill right now?
The governor, that's a good question, and hi to you, Visit Gordon. The governor in March imposed a hiring freeze and compensation freeze. So that pretty much stopped the train from rolling. We were actually in the process of interviewing, and we had to pause the interviews. So once we have the conversation, once I have the conversation again with my manager, with Kevin Davenport, we'll look to kind of go back to the pool, if you will, and see who may be interested before I repost the position. Did that answer your question?
It did. And the only other thing I thought as I stared at the records and data coordinator is that a role that maybe a student could fill when they come back to grounds? Because I'm assuming that involves like data entry and sorting and stuff.
It actually does involve data entry. This position was created because we have so many records that are paper-based. And to manage that, you need a body to manage that until we can migrate these documents to an electronic system. I can certainly take a look at that. But the bad news is there are no students here now, right? And so once we get some normalcy to Mr. Sessom's point, then we can kind of look at it. But I certainly have interns actually every year. We get requests for interns to come into our office to learn HR, and I welcome them in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Simmons?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have a question. Could you tell me how is your office being impacted by these vacancies? And the second part deals with the conversations that you mentioned with Mr. Davenport about these vacancies. Could you give us a little more information about that, please?
Sure. So what I've had to do is have a conversation with my staff to start thinking out no silos for working together, cross-functional teams. So we've been impacted by doing additional duties, and I'm sure, Ms. Crittenton, we're not the only department that are doing additional duties, and we're just one of those. My team, I will tell you, they have thrown the anchor down and started working hard, and they realize that we still have to keep Virginia State moving, even if we're virtual. I do have that conversation with Kevin. Kevin is very supportive of staff, I will say that. And once I've told him that, hey, my team is working, we're doing these things, we've done these things, we've implemented these things, but I think it would be time to start looking at adding one staff member back at a time. And the most important staff position right now would be the benefits administrator, because that does take two to tango, if you will. We really do need two hands on deck, because our benefit structure is such that it's comprehensive. We're talking about healthcare, retirement, and folks that want to talk through those things. And benefits is deadline driven, so we can't miss deadlines when we're doing benefits administration. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes, it does. I just wanted to get a better feel for both of those items that I mentioned. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any others?
Yeah. Would you, in your report going forward, could you add the % completed for your training?
Yes, sir.
That would give us a better idea about where you are and how you catch up on that. I want to compliment you for the technology improvements. And I know that, like church, we didn't know we could do Sunday school online, so we had to. So things have now changed, and we're doing a lot different. So what you're doing is the same thing. You're forced to make some changes that will make it happen. Technology being used otherwise.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Siobhan, hello. I missed the part of you explaining who you are and where you're from. Can you do that for the committee, please?
Okay. I work in human resources at Capital One.
Oh, great.
Is that what you wanted me to share?
Hmm?
Is that what you wanted me to share?
No, I knew that part. I mean, the rest of the part.
Oh, okay. Well, I have worked at Capital One for 20 years. I started my career there actually in technology. Just a little bit while I was asking the question around the coordinator, I figured there was data entry involved. I have been in human resources for 6 years. I lead enterprise diversity recruiting. And so a big part of what I do is helping Capital One attract and retain talent from underrepresented groups. And prior to being appointed to the board, I also served on the industry council for the School of Business for Virginia State as well. So this is my first one of these meetings. I've been on the board since July. So excited to be here and excited to hear the report today.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. A couple more things. Huron had worked with Mr. Stitchsnyder on a governance tool. And we do that in terms of doing something formal. Do you want to cover any of that, Huron? I just say we're going to move it till the August retreat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Glenn. Yes, you, Thursa, you and Jay are familiar with Dr. Alvin Scheck-Snyder. Ms. Gordon, Dr. Scheck-Snyder is a consultant that we have used for our annual retreat, and he's even been a bit of a board whisperer to us with regards to board improvement and as we self-actualize as a board. And so we instituted a practice that I loosely refer to it as the comments for the good of the order that we used for board members to give real-time feedback on how we were governing at the end of our board meetings. I think it has been a bit of a casualty to COVID in that we haven't done it, but what we are moving towards, and that what that activity was moving us to, was a formal board assessment. We believe that from the executive committee that we are on one accord that yes, governance is key, which is why governance has been assigned to this committee. And what we will institute is a formal board assessment. Now it's a pretty structured and what I'll call it a low maintenance effort, but we'll have to engage AGB and Dr. Scheck-Snyder because there is a tool to make sure that it's efficient and it isn't overburdening to the board. We want to push that because of the priorities right now, but it is coming back, and that we may push it to reemerge at our next board retreat. So this committee will be discussing and formulating the tool and may engage with Dr. Scheck-Snyder as we move forward in preparation for that. Mr. Sessoms, is that enough? I can't hear you. You're on mute.
There's one other issue you talked about in terms of governance, and that was putting together some sort of tool to determine what our gaps are in terms of who's on the board, what type of industry they come from, what type of disciplines they come from as well. And we got to start with Raul sending something in. And I think Thurston and I can work with him to figure out how we bring it back to the board, if that's okay. And whatever gaps are existing, we can figure out how we can close those gaps and giving our recommendations to the governor when he's looking for someone for us, Virginia State. Would that be okay?
That is correct.
All right.
Okay. I'm just chiming in to say that what Raul offered was just a guideline for forming a matrix of needs, skill needs, and we had discussed this many times prior. So that's basically what we're talking about. We can take a look at you know, what Raul offered, and he gave us a dashboard, and we're just going to take a look at all the things to see where we have skills, and so that we can make recommendations for the skills that we need to strengthen the board with each appointment.
Right. And that's also based upon the skills that we lose as a result of board members matriculating and moving off of the board.
And I'm assuming we haven't done that before, like it's never been like a skills-based appointment.
No, it hasn't been. And that was also one of the tenets that we took from our development, is that was to be more intentional about how we staff the board, or how we set the board. What experiences and what talents do we need based upon strategic plan and where we see the university going forward.
Got it. Do we know if other schools do that? Are they very selective, looking for certain skill sets for their board appointments as well? Or would we be kind of the first or unique?
So we know that it has been shared with us that other boards attempt to do it. We don't know exactly what other boards do. We do know that we were one of the early boards to pick up the banner of board assessment. But we don't know where we would fit in comparison to other boards. But it's a best practice. We use AGB to whisper to us as to what they think, and it's based upon, I think they probably meet every board where they are, and they make decisions based on their appetite at the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one thing we have to go back and do. Dr. Red says we need to go back and approve the minutes and roll call vote. So can we do that, Dr. Red? Would you take over from here?
Okay, here I am. Okay, so I will do a roll call for approval of the
Mr. Sessoms, do you have a motion? Mr. Sessoms?
Excuse me?
I was just checking to make sure there was a motion on the table.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve those.
Second, anyone?
Oh, I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, there was a motion for the agenda, but we did not do the roll call vote. So I'll do the roll call vote for the agenda first, and then do the roll call for the minutes.
Thank you.
Mr. Sessoms?
Yes.
Ms. Crittenden?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming? Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
Mr. Herrera? Mr. Stegmeyer?
Yes.
Thank you. And now the roll call for the minutes. Mr. Sessoms?
Yes.
Ms. Crittenden?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming, Ms. Gordon,
Yes.
Mr. Herrera, and Mr. Stegmeyer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tanya,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I would, first of all, I just really want to thank Ms. Simmons for two things. One, a very well put together presentation, but also for her hard work. You know, these are difficult times, and we hear a lot about how hard it is to get things done. And Tanya, you've done a masterful job. I'm all about the things you were talking about. I guess you knew that anyway, but I appreciate the work that you've been doing. I do have one question for you to think about. If you have something to say on it today, that's great. Otherwise, maybe the next meeting. But I'm interested, as you're making these changes, in the process that you would use to evaluate from a customer perspective whether the changes are having the desired impact. So your internal customers, are they feeling good about these changes? Are they excited about it? Are they pleased with the progress that's being made? And letting us know how that goes as well.
Okay. I can certainly do that. I can tell you that internally we're jumping up and down inside, right? This is where we want to be. This is where we want to go. And I can also share with you that cross departments and having those conversations about how can we help you get energized and ready to use technology. I'm getting some good feedback, but to your point, I will certainly be glad to kind of put some metrics around that, if that's what I'm hearing you say, because I do know you, Mr. Stegmeyer.
Yeah, you know that stuff matters to me. And Mr. Chairman, just one other thing, if I don't have a chance for it later on, I really would like to welcome Ms. Gordon to the team, and obviously she brings a lot of talent and experience, and thank her for being here, and also express my appreciation to Capital One for allowing her to serve in this fashion. Corporate partners mean a lot, but Siobhan, it's great to have you here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And it took me a minute to realize this was my first meeting. So when you said introduce yourself, I'm like, why am I introducing myself? So it's a little slow.
That's okay. Tanya, have one more issue, then I'll close this out.
Yeah, so what I do want to share with you, and I was remiss in not, I guess I was just so gung-ho and ready to do this presentation for you all, but what I can tell you is that the president is very passionate about his faculty and his staff. And so we had a conversation about what other things that we can offer, put in our benefits package, if you will, as a university. And one of the things that came out of that was, well, how about we consider a tuition benefit program for our staff? And so he charged me with going back, doing some research, working with other universities, and seeing what that looks like. So I can tell you that we are 99.9% done with everything. It looks good. President Abdullah, I want to thank you for that, because, again, I've gotten great feedback from our constituent groups, especially faculty, not faculty senate just yet. I know Dr. Shavana was on here, but the staff senate chair, Monica Brown. And so we're just going through that. But look for more great things about offering a bachelor's degree program for our staff free of charge, outside of books, of course. They'll have to pay for the books. But this is just another benefit and another way that the president is acknowledging his faculty and staff. That's all that I have to say.
Well, thank you, Ms. Simmons, and thank you, Dr. Abdullah, for adding that in. I think it'll be a great benefit as well. Let me close by saying I, too, want to thank Tanya for what she's done. When I met her, she was on her way into a program that she was going to be the next director, but she's taken a very important stand in terms of making HR important to the rest of the staff. Sometimes HR can be a hidden mystery, and sometimes it can be a pain. But having that strong a strong HR group for an organization for a long time, making it insert itself back into the organization is important. And I think you've been slowly giving them tools and that direction, and ideas that benefit them, and therefore HR becomes important. So you're doing a great job in that regard. So Kevin, 2 kudos to your employee, Ms. Sonia. You've done a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. really
I
do.
too, before we kind of adjourn, wanted to say thank you to Ms. Simmons as well. It's really been a pleasure working with her. And as you could imagine, really appreciate all of the focus on process improvements and making things electronic and paper free. So she's brought a different sense of energy to that. And I think we're all going to be much better for it.
Thank
Well,
you.
when I met her in the office, she couldn't get in there because too much paper on the floor and everywhere else. We are finally moving out of the Stone Age into the technology age. I do appreciate that move. And whatever support's needed to do that, I'm sure you will give her that support, Mr. Davenport.
Just so that you know, Kevin, these initiatives started under me.
Oh.
Well, so you know they're getting done under Miss Simmons.
No, I mean, Miss Simmons and I started it. Just so
That's right.
But and I did want to address the resource issue as well too. We've been working across the board, as you all know. When we had COVID come, we had to really put a freeze to a lot of critical positions. You know, not just in HR, but in some other areas as well too. You know, the president and I, we've been looking at that, and we've been bringing certain positions as needed to go back online. So,
Yeah.
Heard you.
Thank you very much. Well, again, HR is a very important piece of any business, even though people don't appreciate it in many ways. Having done that job and been in HR, diversity, and all those kind of things, I know, but we're making progress on purpose, and that's good. And we're getting there all the time. I'm going to ask to move to dismiss this meeting and get a second for that.
I second that.
Okay. Seeing that we'll see most of you tomorrow, let's adjourn and have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Mann.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye-bye.